Hi everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well, as Warren would say. I'm Adam Steele and this is Behind Music Tech, the podcast where we get to the nitty gritty and talk to the people who make all the stuff that makes the world go round. And today we've got a very interesting chap on the podcast, Charlie Cooper, son of Cliff Cooper. They run Orange Amps. Of course you'll have heard of Orange Amps, they're amps and they're orange, you can't miss them. They're round the world an absolute icon. Cliff is still the CEO and the manager, but Charlie is the kind of young up and coming upstart that's got all the kind of things in his mind. He's the marketing guy for Orange and he does a lot of things because it's still a family run business. So without further ado, Charlie Cooper. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I am joined today by Charlie Cooper from Orange.
Hiya. Hi Adam, how's it going?
I'm good. Warm. We're at 42 Gear Street.
Yes.
So I've managed to kind of corner you for a little while so we can have a chat. If you can hear a twangy twang in the background, that's Colin Scott testing out a cream tea guitar, and you'll hear weird background noises of Glenn Fricker shouting and someone playing metal. But yeah, this is a really good chance for me and you to sit down and talk about how things have been going for you and how you've always been a part of Orange as long as no. Should we start there?
Yeah, so Orange is a family-owned company. My dad founded it in 1968. It kind of started off as a shop first, and honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't really have any interest in my dad's company. I was like, my dad was at the time he owned loads of shops in Denmark Street, and I was just not that interested in Orange, honestly. Then I remember one time, he brought he was working with someone on the book of Orange, and he brought it back, and we're like, okay, well, it was his entire career and history about how the Orange brand came about, and it was kind of it felt incomplete. It felt like a draft copy, and so my dad was like, oh, could you help improve it and change it, and then it took 3 years actually to keep doing it, because we kept while I was redoing a lot of the book and we were updating the book, I was learning so much about my dad's company and about the brand. I was like, oh Dad, you got all these pictures of BB King, and you got these pictures of Stevie Wonder, and you got my dad, every time something happened with Orange, he'd always cut it out, cut out the newspaper article or cut out magazines and put it into this box. And so my dad just had these archives of Orange boxes that were just full of content that no one had seen, and no one had seen the light of day. And also a lot of it just hadn't made it into this version of the book. So we went to some of my dad's storage places, and we just kept getting boxes, kept scanning it. And then the book just kept evolving. That's why it took so long. And while I was that entire process, I just suddenly started to respect and kind of understand everything that my dad had done and everything about the company. And I just this is fucking awesome. I love it. And so, yeah, and that's how I got into Orange. That's how I got into the family business. And
so were you still quite young at this point then?
I had just finished uni. And I had some spare time. It's probably the best way to phrase it.
I had spare time after uni as well. I know that one. So was it kind of when you were growing up, your dad ran Orange and that was cool, but you were just your own man? And
yeah, I was my dad was, because in the 90s, my dad was in the early 90s. Dad had licensed the brand out to Gibson at the time. And during that time, my dad was focusing on retail. So a lot of the conversations and a lot of the stuff that my dad was talking about very on was actually more about shops and retail.
Okay.
He had loads of shops on Denmark Street, World of Pianos. He had Bass Cellar. Had all these different shops, and so all the conversations were about retail, were about staff, prices, everything like that. And so it was just kind of boring stuff at the dinner table, right?
Sure.
And then later on when he was talking about Orange stuff, it was just I wasn't really too much into it. It's more about games, playing video computers, technology was all kind of my thing. So yeah, it just never really. It was always something going on. And then I was as I got older, I was yeah, this is cool, but I just got another level of respect and appreciation for what Orange was when I was working on the Orange book.
So at that point, then I'm guessing you said to your dad, I want to be part of this more.
Well, so what happened was around around when I was finishing uni, my dad was always wanting Orange to be like a modern, and he wanted us to be like a forward-thinking company. And I was super into computers, and one thing I did was I had got a Orange cabinet, and I'd actually put a computer inside of it. And the idea was, I was like thinking, you know, it'd be really cool if like they were like this was like 2009, 2008. I was like, it'd be cool if like, you know, you could just turn up to like a gig and you can have like any kind of sound, and you didn't just have to have like this one sound. You could have like a Fender, Marshall, Vox, Orange sound, anything in there. And so I was thinking, oh, if I put a computer inside an Orange cabinet, then anyone could just play, like anyone could install like a multimedia software, like or Amplitude or any, or I think at the time PB also had like Cabrig, and what was it called? But
I know the one you mean. That's going to drive me insane.
yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. But so what I ended up doing was I put a computer inside an Orange case, and I was saying, you know, it'd be cool if Orange like did like an amplifier that just emulated every amplifier out there, and also users were free to install whatever they wanted on it. So we ended up, my dad loved the idea, and he's like, yeah, this is really cool. This is kind of like new stuff, you know, that we Orange should be looking at. And I did a product called the Orange OPC. So that was a computer. It had Windows installed on it, had speakers inside of it, had a 24-bit audio interface, a DVD drive, and the product idea developed to the point where, like, if you're a musician, you'd always buy like an Apple machine, right? And the idea was like, okay, well, and a lot of the time people prefer Apple, it's just because it just works. You buy it, it's great for music, and it's easy, it looks nice. On the PC side of things are a bit not so simple, right? So I was like, okay, well, how about if we did so the idea developed into an all-in-one studio. So it was a computer, and it just had everything configured out of the box. I worked with IK Multimedia to have Amplitude pre-installed onto it. I worked with Presonus to put Studio One, and a company called Acoustica had a great piece of a DAW called Mixcraft. And it was like really simple to use, reminded me a lot of GarageBand in terms of its intuitiveness. And I was like, okay, I'll put that as a like something that anyone can access, and you've also got the Presonus one. So we released that, and it was quite an interesting product. So people would come out to us at NAMM and shows. And I remember like I'd have like a wall of Orange. We'd still be releasing like other Orange amps and stuff, and people go up to me and say, "Oh, is Orange not going to do amps anymore? You guys just going to do computers?" I'm just like, "No, this just like the Orange OPC. It's like you know, we've kind of like expanded into consumer, and we're trying this computer idea out." And yeah, they'll be like, we're still doing the amp side of things, but
Yeah, of course.
doing that entire project also then got me more into the company. And then I was at the same time, people saying, oh, we need to get more graphics done. We didn't have like a marketing department at Orange. And so I'll be then doing graphics, and I'll be doing print advertising. And then would have someone go to me, say, Charlie, could you do photos for the Rocker Verb, and Q would put it in a lifestyle photo, create adverts. So then I was like essentially the graphics guy at Orange. And
Right.
then I just kept to Orange and just started doing marketing and kind of expanded from there.
Are you the one that's responsible for the NAMM wall of amp and all that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah. So I was later on. I was able to. We got a new guy who joined us a few years ago, Harry, and he now does graphics at the company. He does like our video editing. So I worked with him on creating this like massive NAMM wall that went across the entire back of our booth. He helped out with the design, and I was able to use a lot of the assets from the book, like loads of these old vintage photos, like the Orange book, how the Orange shop used to look, the inside of the shop, and all these like legendary artists using Orange. So all the content that I'd scanned and kind of like gathered from from my dad's archives, basically able to then reuse and kind of showcase to tell people what Orange is about and how we've grown over the last 50 plus years. Yeah.
Wow. That is a long time. I mean, do you think that at some point, well, inevitably at some point, you'll take over the company then and become MD, that kind of thing?
I don't know. Like, I love what I do, and the cool thing about it is just basically, like, a lot of the time, my job is really just kind of telling people and about the company's history and how my dad built it up, and all the great staff. We have like Aid, who works at Orange. He's like designs all our gear. I'm not sure, like, I love what I do at Orange a bit too much to be able to just like take over the company. Like, I love doing the marketing and just kind of like showcasing, saying, look what we do. This is how we got here and this is what we've done. I don't know.
It's something that's worth thinking about, because it's not just you and your dad, is it? You told me earlier it's a whole family thing.
Yeah, like like my brother's on the board, and Adrian, actually, he's been with the company since since the mid-90s. He's on it as well. It's we have like it's a family business, but I mean that's also what also makes it like fun and kind of fun to work at. You don't have to like appease like shareholders or investment companies. We just kind of do it because it's fun, you know. Hence, like, we did like the hot sauce. I guess like a lot of the companies wouldn't really get away with that.
Yes, I tried the hot sauce and it is orange coloured.
Yeah.
But my word, it's got a kick.
Oh yeah, I was crying. We did a video for it, and throughout the video, I'm just like, we're like, okay, we'll just do something like scripted thing, and because we just kept needing to taste it, and my face is getting pinker and redder as I'm like going through the hot sauce. Like, let's just show people my pain. That's going to be more fun.
You should do like a Hot Ones style series, but instead of 10 different sauces, it's just 10 of the same one.
Oh
over
my
and
god,
over.
yeah, that'll be a good shout. Yeah.
There's so much to talk about with Orange because they've been around so long as a company. Like, I really enjoyed the OMEC teleport as well, because a lot of people don't know about OMEC. That was a whole thing.
Yeah, so like we like in the same vein that my dad wanted to like push the company forward and do modern technology, which I mean we do modern technology with valves, and we're always progressing analog technology. But in the 70s, my dad was like, okay, well, we want to do a more a futuristic brand, and so he came up with the idea of doing OMEC, which was, and he used like a space age, like 2001, like Space Odyssey kind of font. And so anything that was digital, anything that was like transistor based, not really around valves, it was all on the OMEC side. So I think it was 1975, my dad worked with a developer to come up to something to answer the brief, a digital amplifier, and that was programmable. And we came up with a product called the OMEC Digital in 1975. And this was the world's first digitally programmable amplifier. Sounded
Serious
terrible,
space
right?
age.
But it was because it's like the 70s.
Yeah.
Transistor technology was at that time was
Not
terrible.
great, yeah.
It wasn't great, but it cost like a fortune to make. I think only a handful were made because they were so expensive. They had these huge batteries in them. And the idea is that you could set a tone, then program that tone using one of 9 different memory banks. And then during the gig, you can just press like number 3, you got a different kind of tone, press number 2, different tone again. And the fun thing about it is because it relied on memory that literally just forgot itself when the power went. You had these huge batteries inside. So if the power went, you have 20 minutes to get the power back before the amp forgets all of its settings.
What?
And there was also like, it was really early, so it used to also have like a static discharge. So also like the longer you played it, it would like damage itself as well. They're really rare to find ones that work. I think there's only 2 left that work.
Wow.
But it was just an example of like a technology and an amplifier that was made before it should have been made, like before its time. It's like the first one. So then we had a guy come to Orange called Danny Gomez, and he said he has this great idea about making an audio interface in a pedal, and we're like, okay, this is awesome. So it's rather than just being like your usual audio interface that is on your that you have next to your PC, your laptop, or whatever. This was like a really cool product that you just you could have it in your pedal setup. You can just click it on. You can also then connect it to your phone, which might run Amplitude software or any other kind of audio processing software, and then also then output it again through the pedal and then to the rest of your board. So I was like, oh, this is really cool, and but it's not like now, like when people think of Orange, think of like analog tone, tubes, people aren't thinking, okay, digital. So I guess I was worried about people thinking, okay, well, getting confused about what the brand message was. And I was like, well, we did this in the 70s. Not many people know about this. Like, I kind of learned about it when I was doing the Orange book. So let's call it OMEC. Let's do it under the OMEC brand. And because then we can, people know that it's a totally digital product. Even though Orange are making it, it's different to like what Orange is about. But it still lines up with what my dad wanted OMEC to be in the 70s. So we relaunched that brand and came up, worked with Danny Gomez on further developing the product, making it a finished product. And so we released the OMEC Teleport a few years ago.
Yeah, I played with it. It was a lot of fun. I think if it's something that I think would be worth going back and revisiting, just like make a Mark II kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think the one issue I had was latency could be a little bit of a, but the idea was completely sound.
Yeah, it was. So one of the if you're on like Windows, like would recommend something like ASIO for reducing latency. Usually, and the annoying thing on people who purchased the product who had an Apple computer, usually work with those users. Again, reminding me of how like and trust me, I'm not really an Apple fan, but I'm actually prefer Windows. I like building computers. And it's easy to do that on the PC side.
He says recording on a MacBook.
I'm like my girlfriend's got like I've been trying to like get my girlfriend to use like a Windows computer because she's been using Mac all the time. And I'm just like, so I built her a computer. I also like I spray painted a small computer case pink as well, like a favorite color. And that's the thing, I've always found like Windows is really good as long as you configure it right. Because a lot of time you get Windows that comes with like McAfee, Norton, all this like crap that slows it down.
Pre-builts are the worst.
Yeah, so it runs great if you customize it and you make it how it should be. Yeah.
OMG, I can't believe he said that. I don't know, I'm making that up. So if you're watching this on my channel, on the video version, check out the MP3 version on the Produce Like a Pro podcast on iTunes. If you're listening to this on the podcast, check out the video version on my channel, it's Adam Steele. And check out everything that we do with Produce Like a Pro, including Pro Mix Academy and the Produce Like a Pro Academy as well. Without further ado, back to me and Charlie.
I'm very much the same with that kind of thing, that kind of making it my own is a big thing for me. And that makes sense actually, that working with a company like Orange, making things your own is a big thing for you guys. It's
Aid always like says like we got the Orange look and we got Orange right in the start. Like we were like a lot of people could say like we're in a lot of ways like one of the original boutique amplifiers. In the 60s, when my dad created the Orange shop, all shops were like brown fronts, black shop fronts. My dad was like, I'll make it orange. It'll look different and it will stand out as a shop. So then when my dad then wanted to sell amplifiers in that shop, and like at the time, all these other amp companies said no to him. And then he was like forced to then say, okay, I'll make my own amps then. He then carried over the shop color of it being orange, made it orange, and then he just came up with like loads of ideas that he wanted to make it his own and different to everyone else's. And we've just kept that philosophy. We haven't changed it. So that's why we're still using like same logos that we used in the 60s and 70s. The icons that we use across all our stuff, that was like, my dad went to France in like the 60s, and he noticed that he loved how a lot of the road signs didn't have words on, and that they just had like pictures and they'd just be universal. And at the time, my dad came up with a slogan which we still use today, which is the voice of the world. Yeah. And that was when we just had a really small shop in New Compton Street in London. Wow. And the idea, my dad's dream was that Orange can be found all around the world. That's also why he came up with the idea of the orange earth and an orange tree growing from it, because the idea is that orange can be heard all around the globe. Something that's like more recently has been recognised today, right? Yeah. So he then made them unique as well in terms of, he was like, okay, I want them to have pictures, so anyone in Australia, not Australia, I mean English anyway, but China, Japan, Spain, anyone who doesn't speak English could still just come on stage, see an Orange amp, know how to use it and recognise it. There's no like language barriers. So that was, so when we make a new products like the Rock Reverb, for example, Adrian will come to me and say, okay, we've got a new control, which is the global channel. we should make a picture of the Earth. We won't write global on it. So we're kind of keeping that philosophy. We come up with new icons to try and make it as intuitive as possible. Although people say, oh, they look like hieroglyphics, and it's like, yeah, okay, we're doing everything we can to try and make the icons as universal and easy to understand as possible.
That's a great thing. Who's hammering back there?
I don't know, but I'm sure
Henning just wants to hammer things today.
when we stop, they're going to stop hammering.
Of
That's
course.
exactly how it works.
Every time. It is interesting how every amp, you were saying every amp that Adrian designs, he makes sure that they all have that orange thing.
Yeah, so like essentially, like Adrian kind of like jokes to me that he's like a huge fan of AC/DC, and he's like, when he works on an Orange amp, if it can't play the first 2 albums from AC/DC, then it's not an Orange amp. Right. It's essentially making sure that there's something that kind of like binds and kind of links all of our amps together to make sure it's still got that orange tone. It doesn't kind of stray far from that.
Yeah.
I guess like there was a designer my dad hired in 1972 called John James. We actually did an interview with him recently because some staff who from the 70s are actually still working with Orange today, right. And they're friends with the original staff. So I was like, one of the things I want to do is kind of expand on the book and create video content around a lot of the articles and stories that the book mentions. So we're doing a section on our YouTube channel called like Orange History. So we interviewed the original design of the 1972, what is kind of known as the Orange Pix-only amplifier, and that's kind of like the original Orange amplifier, where we kind of got that British crunchy tone that people still hear in all of our products. And he was saying like when he was designing that product, people didn't really know what they were doing. He wasn't like doing any kind of like maths or equations in order to get it right. He had like a basic amplifier, or he had the previous amplifier, and he just kept changing random parts about it until it just sounded nice to his ear. So there was like back then there wasn't that many rules about what an amplifier should be or how it should really sound. In the 60s and 70s, it was all about finding a new tone and finding your own thing. When my when Orange started up, before the amplifier side of things, it was just a shop, and then my dad added a studio downstairs. So loads of musicians would come into the shop, they'll go into the studio, and then they'll start playing, they'll play their guitar and they'll record through it, and then they'll kind of use the EQ on the mixer to kind of make the guitar sound different to everyone else, because musicians wanted to find a different tone and a different sound. Yeah. And so then they were advising my dad on kind of like these new tones, and then my dad was then talking to the designer, and all of that together kind of resulted in the Pix-only amp. And Aid always like thinks back to that amp as well when it comes to designing anything new from Orange.
Right. Well, I suppose if that's been defined as the original Orange sound,
yeah.
I suppose if that's what people recognise, you don't want to stray too far from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you want to make sure any kind of confusion about what a brand is or what a tone is, people aren't going to like go for it. It's you wanted people to like, okay, there's a Marshall. Marshall's got that unique tone.
Yes. Well, that's something that I think Marshall have suffered with in the last 20 years. That they'll try and push things in a direction that is so different from their original sound that a lot of people get upset and go back to the old amps.
I gotcha. I've heard that. I mean, like I'm a fan of Marshall amps. They're really cool. It's like the Silver Jubilee. I fucking love that amplifier. Right. It sounds great, mate. But yeah, it's I think I don't know. I don't want to like comment or like say anything negative about other amp brands.
No,
like
but it's more of an observation, isn't it,
yeah.
of how they've been striving for one thing and you've gone a different direction.
Yeah,
I think the Orange have always pushed, like there's the Dual Dark and the Terrors and all that kind of stuff, that you've definitely pushed boundaries. But like you say, Adrian has made a point of designing things and going, it has to do this thing.
Yeah, it was. It's always like thinking about. Also, Adrian also like a lot of time he would design stuff that he would use himself. There isn't a single product or a single Orange amplifier that he's designed that he wouldn't use himself. The Tiny Terror, the idea was having a something that you could just a small portable amplifier you could just rock up to an event, borrow the other band's cabinet, have the tone of the night, have a few drinks and like go home on the underground. Like it's just like having that portable tone and removing the wooden sleeve, making it even lighter. That was his idea for it, and a lot of people as well, like they learnt about Orange because of like the Orange lunchbox Tiny Terror. So and then he's been expanding the Terror series because it's such a portable, accessible format. Like the Dark Terror after that, which is almost a bit like a Tiny Terror Mark II, the Dark Terror is.
Right.
The Rocker 15 and the Dual Terror, so if people want the original Tiny Terror sound, they can get that from the Dual Terror. It's got a fat channel as well, actually.
Right.
But so we try to just be clear about things to the customers in terms of, okay, if it's in that form factor, it's a Terror amp. But I realise actually I'm babbling. I'm sorry about that.
No, this is a long form production. This is exactly what we're looking for.
Okay,
go
cool.
for it. Yeah.
So I forget where I was. So.
So we were talking about the designs and how we got to like making sure everything matches up.
Yeah. Essentially, it's like making keep also. I forget where I was. Yeah. So yeah, I think I finished my point anyway.
Yeah. So something I wanted to touch on is even the solid state amps. Like there's now the Super Crush.
Yeah.
That was very much, you said it was based on the Rocker Verb to make sure it's got that thing. I mean, just off camera here, we've got the local expert Colin Scott and his hi.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about he's done a full video on the JIFET thing and how it responds.
It's
So that's pushing a whole different new territory.
Yeah, it's Adrian's. We like the Rocker Verb is like one of our. It's a really mature amplifier right now. We're in like the Mark III version of it right now, and it's kind of like a go-to amplifier for a lot of high-end musicians. Like Jim Root still uses it. We have like 1,000 Mods, one of my favorite bands. They use it. We have Clutch. Tim Salt uses the Rocker Verb as well. It's just loads of artists love that product, and so Aid was thinking, well, let's make a solid state version, something that's based on that on like the sound and tone of the Rocker Verb. But the idea of it's a solid state version, so it's a lot cheaper as one. It's a lot lighter. Maintenance is something you don't need to worry about. The tube shortage and the astronomical prices of tubes, which are going up.
Oh yeah.
We need to be able to make sure that we can still provide products that are still affordable. Somewhat affordable to users.
Well, that's the thing, but a lot of people don't realise the reason a lot of valve amps are so expensive is it's not just the valves. To make the valves work, you've then got to have a transformer that's the size of 2 fists.
Yeah.
And all like that's iron, and iron's expensive, etc., etc. And then you've got to have all the circuitry around that, so it doesn't go bang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's where the cost comes from, everybody. Whereas if you can get a really good solid state power
weight.
section, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and the weight, yeah. A really good solid state power section. A lot of valve purists are like, oh, it's not the same. And it's not the same, but it isn't bad.
It's not the same, but it's the kind of like, there's also like, there's loads of like convenience factors. Like if there's like, one of my things that always happens is like a studio, for example, they'll or they'll loan out a Rocker Verb. They won't maintain it. They won't check their tubes. They'll just leave the tubes in there. And then people will be trying that Rocker Verb thinking, why does it not sound right? It's because it hasn't been maintained. So for the kind of user who just wants to have an amplifier, not touch it, not like replace the tubes, not bias them, also like kind of want to like move it around without worrying about the weight so much. There's like, it's a different kind of audience, a different kind of user. So we're always trying to make sure that we got different products for different users out there that all are tied together with the Orange tone, the Orange look, the Orange brand.
Absolutely. And that's something I think you've done really well. I mean, on that line, is there anything we can talk about that's coming up, or is it all, the usual confidential kind of thing?
Well, if this video is coming out after the 16th of September, then we can talk about like the vintage pedals, which are coming out. So this is one where users have been asking us to come out with, and I need to go in a minute. But
yeah, we'll wrap this up and then.
So users were asking us to, we went on to like our Orange unofficial Facebook fan page, and we noticed on Instagram that people had discovered these vintage pedals that we used to make in the 70s. And these pedals were like, originally actually they were kind of like a bit of a foot in the door for retailers back then. The idea was like, okay, we we'd go to shops, would say, hey, do you want to have Orange amps? And they'll be like, no, I've already got Marshall, I've already got Vox, I've got Fender, why do I want another amp brand? So at the time, the sales team was like, oh, we want to we need a product that we can get our foot in the door with, keep the relationships with dealers. And so that was actually the original idea for bringing out these orange pedals in the 70s.
Right.
And they were designed rather quickly, and they didn't actually, and interestingly, they didn't use the orange logo that we use on all our amps. They used like a very psychedelic, like very thinner font and a thinner typeface. But ironically, they were actually painted orange, and all our other pedals, they're not orange in color. They're actually they'll have different designs on them. So these are like very simple looking pedals. They just have the orange, the old orange logo for the pedals, the product name, and they were kind of like built like tanks. They're like oversized, and people would like discovering these again, saying that they love the vintage tone and flavor of these pedals and just the look and the tone of them. And they said, oh, Orange should do this, Orange should bring this back. And so we noticed people saying, Orange should do this, and people putting videos of them playing through these vintage pedals. So we posted on our Facebook and Instagram like a year or so ago saying, hey, do you guys want us to bring these pedals back? And that went viral, and people were sharing that saying, yes, please do it. And we never really do like reissues, because we kind of feel like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. No one really knows what like an original Orange amp sounds like. If you find one today, it's been repaired, it's changed. Also, it's illegal for us to make an Orange amp like we did back then, because you use lead soldering. They were also way harder to service. Like every amplifier we've done has always been an improvement, and also has always been keeping in with what the new regulations are around the world.
Of course.
So, and all these component factories don't exist, but for this one, we asked social media, okay, could you send us pictures of the pedals, send us the dimensions, could you send us like videos of you guys playing them? And people were just sending us all this content. And then Mick, who worked at Orange in the 70s, still works with us today. He found the original schematics of the pedals, and they're like covered in tea stains. They're just kind of like these like old pieces of paper, like they're like super old. Gave them to Adrian, and Adrian essentially like says, oh, I can do better than this actually. So he made improvements to them to like make them more usable, like switching the input and output the other way around.
Because they were backwards from what we now know.
Yeah, really chaotic back then. This wasn't as standardized. Added like a LED so you actually know when it's engaged and not. Kind of like all these like nice things that a lot of modern pedals have. There's no like it didn't happen back then. And and we tried them out. They were like, these are phenomenal. These are awesome. So every now and then I just kind of like, we posted something so like every now and then like hardcore fans who like keep a close eye on our social pages will know that we've got them coming out.
Yeah.
But we haven't been official about saying we're releasing them yet. So I'm hoping everyone's quite excited, and we're like, okay, well, everyone's been asking us to do it. We're giving it a go. Hopefully they get received well.
Amazing.
So there you go, Charlie Cooper from Orange Amps. Fascinating guy. Spent half the time at Gear Street in the hot tub, and now is jetting around the world doing all sorts of crazy stuff like he does. So yeah, thanks to Charlie, and thanks to everybody at Gear Street for helping me to set these kind of podcasts up. If there's anybody else you'd like to see on the podcast, let me know on iTunes in the comments, or on my video on my channel, or anywhere that you can get hold of me, because I'm interested to see who you guys want me to talk to. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you later.